Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I'm Blackbright, broadcasting out of the UK once again. And like I said, I'm not a lawyer, not an immigration advisor. I can just put my 2 cents worth in, and I offer information I feel is useful. Now, I've been doing quite a lot of, trying to understand this immigration thing that's going on, the deportation, the reasons behind it. And, I just came across a brainwave because, I always believe that the US and the UK are in cahoots. And, some words have been ringing in my head about what Trump has been saying. Trump has been saying, we welcome legal immigrants. We welcome legal immigrants. Immigrants who are legal, we have no problem, which is confusing those people who are against immigration. Now, where am I going with this? Well, if you think that with legal immigration, for each applicant, you're looking at about 10 grand. Can you imagine how much money they make through legal immigration? A family of 4, say, is about 10 grand. It's 8,132, I think. And that's not even including the legal fees. It's not including the NHS surcharge. I mean, the government talks about immigrants draining resources. Do people know how much immigrants pay to stay in the country? They're not here free. Of course, I'm not talking about undocumented or illegal immigrants. That's why they have a bone to pick with illegal immigrants, because they're not getting that 10,000 that they could get. They're not able to recoup. Do you know that legal immigrants have to pay an NHS health surcharge of £1,000 a year? And every time they renew or extend their visa, they have to pay it again. So when they're saying, oh, these immigrants are draining the resources and blah, 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 I mean, they do harp on about illegal immigrants. But, when we're thinking about immigrants, most people just think about immigrants regardless of whether they're legal or illegal. They don't stop to think about all those Asians and Africans and Caribbeans who are coming in here on a student visa, spending all that money. I mean, if they come in on a student visa, not only do they have to fulfill a lot of criteria, of self-sufficiency, they've got no recourse to public funds, they have to pay the NHS surcharge. But on top of that, at the end of that expensive course, they then have to find a tier 2 sponsor. That's somebody who's willing to pay 22,000, I think it is, for the license. They have to be licensed in order to take them on. And if they can't find that tier 2 sponsor, they have to go back to wherever they came from after doing that course. So it's fine saying, oh, come over to the UK and do your course over here and pay your big fees. And at the end of it, after you've done all of that and they've benefited from your income, they boot you out. Because how many tier 2 sponsors are there? How many valid sponsors are going to pay for a student? And they have to give a minimum salary of £20,800. That's a minimum. So when you're thinking about them, that's above the minimum wage. So why would they take on a student? So it's all designed to fail. To fail the immigrants, the legal immigrants who are paying to come in, or exploit the immigrants, because it's only for non-EU and non-UKs. They have to pay an arm and a leg. And so I can understand why a lot of them go underground. I mean, who's got that kind of money? I was listening to a lady the other day and she was saying she's a single mother and she's got 3 children and she's here on a discretionary leave to remain or whatever it is she's on. But she has to find I think, £8,000 before she can even apply. I mean, who's got that kind of money? I really think it's disgusting. It's discriminatory and it's disgusting because it only applies to people coming in. And that NHS surcharge, I mean, you know, if they're coming in and they're working and paying taxes, why would they need to pay the NHS surcharge? It's not right and it's not fair. And a lot of people don't know it. You know, I used to hear, Africans come over and say, I'm here as a student, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're just trying to siphon off the system. And that is the prejudicial viewpoint that people have when they hear people coming in as students or on spouse visas. There's always that look of skepticism, not realize that these people have to pay so much money for that privilege in quotes. But is it really a privilege? Because what do they get at the end of it? Can they use whatever they've acquired in the UK back in their hometown to better themselves? I don't know. I just think that when you're, I can understand now why so many people got underground. I can understand why the government is screaming about undocumented immigrants and illegal immigrants, because they want the money. They don't mind how many immigrants are in the country. They could have millions of immigrants in the country as long as they're paying out. But if that's the case, it's defeating the object, isn't it? If you want immigrants because they're paying their way, why put out a sign that says, oh, invasion of immigrants, if that is the case? And then remember, Trump was talking about they don't want any poor immigrants coming in. So what do? Indirectly, that's why they're upping up the price, increasing the price of the immigration fees, so that only a certain caliber of immigrant can come into the country. Once I said, it's pricing people out. It's trying to get the creme de la creme in the country. So, somebody who's got money is not going to worry about 10 grand or 20 grand. But then I have to ask myself, what has England got to offer in return? I mean, England, I think, is such an arrogant country because it's almost like it's based on status. England has a certain status. The passport is a premium. And therefore, if you want it, you've got to pay for it. So all of these people who are undocumented and who've slipped through the net and who, for whatever reason, have not legitimized themselves, they will get siphoned out in one way, like I keep saying, because they want their money. And the deportation, I don't even think it's criminal related. I think a lot of Jamaicans, and like I say, I talk about Jamaicans because that's my background and that's my interest. But it does affect Africans, it affects Asians, it affects everyone. So everyone can come on board with this. But I'm talking about Jamaicans because a lot of Jamaicans are legitimately in the country. What they've done wrong is by committing a crime or allowing themselves to be criminalized for whatever reason, because that is the only way they can get them out. Because once they're in, and they're in, whether it's because they've married a British citizen, whether it's because they've got children in the country and the children are settled, whatever reason, or a family member brought them in and they've got their indefinite leave to remain, the majority of Jamaicans are legally here. But there will be those who have defaulted and who haven't renewed for whatever reason. And those are the ones who they are going to try and get just by virtue of You know, it's going to be a touch and go situation. Do you notice, like at the carnival last year, they took off the protection of civilians for the stop and search, so they could stop and search everyone. Do you remember that? They also did it when they had that shooting in Ealing, or was it Stanmore? Anyway, they took it off so they could stop and search anyone. And that's where they're going. That is what they're looking for. The stop and search will siphon out, because they can only do it through trial and error. So that will enable them to kind of siphon out and get these people who are undocumented. Because all they've got to do is hold you in detention for like not even 24 hours, because everything's on the system. And they've got you if you're not legitimate. So hopefully the majority of you are legitimate. One lady said to me that, you know, she's got a partner and she's got 2 children for him, and he's been in the country for 20 years. I mean, technically, if you're in the country for over 20 years, you can apply for indefinite leave to remain quite legitimately. But you would have had to have had the continuous stay in the country, and you can't have committed any crimes. You would have had to have a clean record. Then you can apply. And especially if you've got children in the family, you know, children of the family, you've got 2 children, she's a British citizen, there shouldn't be a problem. But like I said, you know, you need to get professional advice. Don't take my word for it. Take professional advice and see what can be done, because there will be a lot of people who are worrying about their status. This is just to kind of throw things out there and try to understand what is going on and why it's going on. And that's all for now. Bye-bye.